Welcome to Earth Mysteries. Today we're traveling to the east side of Turkey in the Salufa province, right next to the Syrian border, to a wonderful limestone plateau that is only now revealing its secrets. I had the privilege of going to this area in 2022, but I know that even now more is being discovered. At that time it was almost like only 1% of what archaeological discoveries, artifacts could be found there had been discovered. So let's journey. If you're ready, let's go. Now the word tepe means a man-made hill, and I think that's really important that someone went to all the bother of creating these mounds or hills. And in many cultures the idea of a mound or a hill signified a pregnant earth into which you could actually put a tree in and you'd bring heaven and earth together. So mounds are found throughout the world. As I say, only a small area of this vast area that I saw has yet to been explored, and I think that's very exciting. Now this site particularly is said to be 11,400 years old, which obviously is about at least 6,000 or 7,000 years to most megalithic sites in Europe. So who were these people? We want to think that they were probably hunter-gatherers, but really quite barbaric. But as you start to see some of the magnificent buildings that were created and the statues, you've got to say, who were these people and why did they do that? And this particular site is older even than Göbekli Tepe, which you're going to be also able to see as one of my videos. Now, Professor Carol, who is the lead researcher from Istanbul University, says that this was only the first of dozens of sites in this area, covering a 100-kilometer area. And he saw them as lasting for 1,500 years. And what was interesting, that after that, they carefully covered these sites, including so many of the wonderful reliefs and structures that they had carved. Nobody really knows why. Was it as a finish that we finished this area, or maybe it was because there was a disaster going on and they wanted to protect and preserve these sites? We're now being given the privilege of unearthing these sites that have been buried for maybe 8,000 or 9,000 years. And what Professor Carroll thought was so amazing was that it's clear that these people were hunter-gatherers, and they created this community, these homes, this site, this ritualistic site, long before they really brought in agriculture. And this really freaked out a lot of the archaeologists who wanted to say, no, people get together because they need food. Well, clearly these people didn't need food. They needed a ritualistic or ceremonial site. Fascinating. So, are you ready to climb the stairs to the dig? Hope you've got a lot of puff in you. And I will give honor to Megalithomania, who I traveled with for many of these images, which are from drones. But this gives us a lovely image of just this small area, please, that's been discovered. It doesn't mean it's the only area. I think it's going to be very exciting. And there is a bit of a tendency that when we unearth something, archaeologists and others say, we now know what this site is all about. Well, clearly we don't, because we've only discovered about 1% of it. So let's not jump too much into knowing who these people were. We've just literally started to unearth the mystery. And as I said, it was all decommissioned. In other words, stones were laid into these places around 8,000 BC. Why? As I say, we don't know, but it was so carefully done. And we're going to move a little closer here, because these are the three main areas, what have been called AA, AB and AD. And clearly in AA there is a water pit or a very large pit, which some assume is water, some say it's burial. There's a water channel that comes in that actually fills AB. And again, you can see these pillars, and we're going to spend a bit more time looking at those. So water was a big feature here. And one wants to wonder, this is fairly high up in that area, and in terms of it's a plateau, did they run out of water? What was going on? Because water features in so many different places I visit as a means of creating magnetic energy, of cleansing, of irrigating. I wonder what they were using this water for. So let's just look at this AA. And AA, as I'm pointing out there, has this really deep water basin going right into the bedrock. So a lot of what happened here was that even the pillars that you see there were actually fashioned out of the bedrock, which takes a lot of energy. So you have to dig down, obviously through fairly hard rock, to create the shape you want. So this is some effort went in here, and what was going on. And I think you can see there that there's a bit of a lip. So did someone sit on that? What was that area that they've got there? And underneath that lip you see going into the basin, there was a stone. I mean, did the stone have any purpose, or did it just happen to end up there and everybody said, oh, there's a stone, it must have a purpose? And then I pointed out there's a serpent wall. And I think this is what's interesting, and I hope you can see this. On the first image there, you can see what is the skin of the serpent. And then on the opposite side, I've put fox because there's a fox, and I hope you can see that fox's head and leg and body. So the serpent moves into becoming a fox, obviously something very important. Now, many times, and I'm watching people who do astroastronomy or astroarchaeology, I should say, and what they're saying is, well, this signifies this in the sky or that at the sky at the time. Obviously, and I say obviously, serpents appear in many cultures. So it's really describing something that says it's transformational. Serpents have been seen as wisdom, creative energy, depending on which culture you come from. Fox is different. You know, the fox is seen as something which is more mobile, perhaps sly. But interestingly, in these sites, there are many images of foxes. Some of them, they call them flying foxes. So was it just they had a lot of foxes around and they said, hey, let's make a fox carving? Or did this fox have creative meaning? Now, above, I'm hoping you'll see that, above that serpent is what is either a seating or a water channel. So was the whole area filled with water and then the serpent was swimming in the water and so was the fox? Was this what was going on? Did you sit there or was it water? We don't know, but that's the joy of looking for different pictures. And I think you can also see that lovely ray of sun coming in, pointing down right onto that stairway or that step. And this is now moving on to the next chamber called AB, and they call it the pillar chamber. And it has this head. And the head is said to be, is it human? It has very thick lips, which are a little bit like the Olmec faces down in Mexico. Of course, we're miles away from that. But it also is said to have either a beard or a serpent neck. Can you see that? So there's something going on here that clearly is trying to represent a figure, and it's a beautiful looking figure. I think we all have to agree on that. But why was it built like that? Now we're going to continue on AB, and you see there's the human head I've just been showing you, and it overlooks what which archaeologists have decided are phallic pillars. Now at the same time you can also see AA that we've just been talking about, where you have what either is a water channel or a seating above the serpent fox imagery. Okay, coming back to AB. Most of those so-called phallic pillars are built out of the bedrock. Again, you're really saying they cleared everything else away to leave them. There is, however, one figure that was actually created there, and I think it's that one that looks a little bit like an animal. So why did they build that? Now, some people think that this AB, here you get a better picture of it. You see the head, you can see the top of the head there, and you see a water channel coming in from the right. There is a small window on the left. We don't know. Did they need to go into that water to cleanse? And again, if there was water right up to the top of those pillars, did you swim through? Was it an initiation? Did you bathe in that way? Was it understood that the head was watching? And if this was a serpent head, and some suggest that from the head there's a whole body going in both directions around that, making it a serpent, was this the place where you received wisdom? We don't know. So here's a few ideas. As I say, maybe it was an initiatory chamber. There's the water channel I'm talking about. There are the 10 pillars created from the bedrock, one freestanding. I like this one that kind of does look like a human on that left, but I think that's just my imagination. And there's that window behind that small window that's coming. Excuse me. See this hole here? This seems to be significant. That goes into that next chamber we haven't yet looked at. Why was that there? And I think you can see now, maybe, as I say, something coming away from the head. Hugh Newman, who I travelled with, had been there on the winter solstice and felt that the sun came in at a certain angle on the winter solstice, lighting up the head. Was it related to solstices or equinoxes? We don't know. And others, and I put their vibration in water, have said this was a sound system. So you vibrated the water and you were in that water, you were vibrated, you woke up, or became more awakened or activated from being in that water. Now here's the third area, it's called AD. You can see on the right there are domestic areas, and I just say that that's what they're exploring. But there are stairs going into AB, the one we've just come out of. So again, this little area, the arrow there is showing you that leads into what they call the pillar chamber. Again, can't say why. And again, I thank Megalithomania for giving me this image. And what we understand from AD is that it was used for different purposes. And I think that's important. What we've come to understand that over the 1500 years or whatever, it was redesigned so that you found that a pillar that might have been upright became a seat for the future. So it's very hard, like many sites, including when I was in Egypt, to say this was definitely it, because everything was redesigned, reconstructed. They used the same materials, understandably, to be able to form something. And here you can see that little entrance, and it's, can we see the face if we look through? I have to say, I wasn't able to see it fully, but I imagine that from a certain angle, and that might be where the sun is coming in, the face is lit up, and that was how Hugh Newman saw it. Now, there's different thoughts about these pillars. Some call them phallic symbols, but others say, well, no, this is a support, and you see this diagram down here, where clearly the T-shaped pillars were ideal for supporting a roof. So, you could say they were phallic, but they're just T-shaped pillars supporting a roof. I like to always just say the obvious may be the obvious. And the interesting thing about those pillars, they're again created from just one piece of stone, which is amazing that they managed to do that. It isn't two pieces of stone stuck on top of each other. Then you have this figure here. I don't know if you can see it, but it looks like a bird head, and then maybe it's its wing coming around the side, wanting to really reveal that clearly. That's why they did that. And then you have this one where you see again the what we might say the elbow or the wing of the animal, and then it comes down to what look like fingers, but if you count those fingers, there's a lot of fingers, which is not uncommon in many of these sites. Sometimes 6, 7, 8 fingers, or as someone suggested, this may be feathers. I quite like the idea of feathers. If it's a bird, seems a bit obvious. Now, these holes are there. People talk about them as catchment areas, places where there may be oil was put in, some sort of ritual. But again, the various books that I've read said they had to catch water, so why not make holes where you could collect the rainwater? But I'm open to suggestions, but you can see they were very close together, so it was unlikely they were supporting anything. So who knows? And here's just a few more images from that site, and there are over 250,000 different images that have been found. There's the leopard on the man's back, which I think is beautiful. Let me see if I can get back again to that. There we are, it's a better image. You see that's the leopard. You see the man with his head, the leopard between the leopard's paws. So there's that. And then we have another leopard. Leopards seem to be important. Again, you might say, well, it looks like an animal. I'm not sure if it's a leopard. Oh, let's just assume it's a leopard, because I'm really saying leopards, snakes, and foxes seem to be relevant. And then there was this nice little figure of a man looking skyward that I'm just jumping away from. But I wanted to say that there were so many things going on here. I think that I can't wait to go back and see what they've discovered. But clearly these were people who were not about just hunter-gatherers, barbarians. They had a plan, and they created a very sophisticated, not only these ritual centers that I'm showing you, but also communities, homes. And that's really where a lot of the energy is going at the moment. So I hope you enjoyed your trip with me to Karahan Tepe and your look up Gobleteki, which I also am creating a video for. Take care now. Bye-bye.